Hey guys, welcome back. Just landed in Boston, got to my hotel, and I'm getting this video out earlier. In fact, the market hasn't even closed. We still have about 10, 12 minutes left of trading today. But I had to drop this video earlier today because of what we're seeing in the market right now. We have a complete reversal happening right now with Micron in the afternoon session. It's because we've had a number of strong catalysts, strong signals that are lifting the entire memory trade. It's not just Micron. We're seeing the same type of action with Western Digital, Seagate, SanDisk, SK Hynix. They're all moving in a very positive direction right now, despite the market being flat. Our broader indexes are negative today, and many of the tech stocks are down today, but the memory trade is operating differently. It's starting to make me think, have we reached a bottom with the memory trade? Are we ready now to move to the next leg up? Because earlier this week, in fact, it was yesterday morning, Micron hit a low of 915. Right now, we're seeing it soar towards 970 a share. We have reversed about $40 a share today alone. The intraday low today was about 929 right in the morning, but Micron right now has completely reversed, and the other members of the Fab Five are moving in the same direction. So have we hit a bottom this week? Are we ready to move to the next leg of the memory trade to start to get these stocks back up to where we just saw them last week when they were moving with such great momentum overall? That's the question I want to answer in today's video, because we saw a number of signals that I want to cover. I want to talk about the brand new research hub that Micron has dedicated $10 billion to in building in the U.S., the first of its kind in the U.S. overall. And it's a great signal for their commitment, their long-term commitment to this sector. And guys, we're seeing massive capital rotation back to shareholders with SK Hynix and Samsung. We'll go through both of those, but just remember, SK Hynix announced a $29 billion buyback program yesterday. Well, Samsung didn't want to be outdone. There's news on the street right now that their program and their buyback program is going to blow SK Hynix away. I'm going to show you those results because this is going to move the entire sector. The market loves these types of announcements because it's just giving a strong sign of confidence that these big three players have in the long-term durability of this cycle and the long-term durability of the pricing that they have in the marketplace right now and the demand overall. So we're going to dive into all of those, and we're going to answer the question in this video. Has the memory sell-off, has it actually started to form a bottom this week? Are we going to get ready to bounce to the next leg up in this trade? I'm going to give you my price levels that I'm looking for Micron. We're going to take a look at some of those physical supply chain data that I just mentioned, and ultimately the fundamental signals that we need to continue to track to ensure that this bullish thesis that I want to lay out is confirmed and can be real and sustained over time. That's what I'm going to cover in today's video. So make sure you hang on. Make sure you listen to the entire video. I'm going to drop some great signals at the end, but if you haven't done it already, make sure you hit like and make sure you subscribe to the channel. All right, guys, let's get started. Let's just take a look at what we did see with Micron today. So what we're seeing right now, actually, because we're still trading in real time, and you can see the stock is at 968.02. If you look to the right here, you can see the reversal that we had today. So 929.07 was the low today, got up to a high of pretty much where we are right now. So a 968.98 was the high overall. And if you look to the right, we're seeing the same type of signal with all of the memory trades. So SanDisk is up about $25 a share. Western Digital is up about 1.5%, almost $7 a share. And we're seeing Seagate up over $22 a share. And if I scroll down real quickly, just to show you SK Hynix, you can see here, SK Hynix is up over 4%. But this isn't a broad kind of rotation back into tech. Just take a look at the NASDAQ 100 and I will refresh it for you. The green on the board is essentially the memory trade. You see Marvell with some great announcements around partnerships with Google that is moving that stock. But outside of that, the hyperscalers are down. Walmart had some bad earnings today, or at least the earnings were perceived to be bad. It's moving the stock down by 9%. So we're seeing some rotation out of consumer, but it's rotating back into the memory trade because of the strength of this trade overall. And just to show you what's happening, right here, you can see the Fab Five. They're all moving in a positive direction overall. And if I scroll down, you guys have asked me in earlier videos to show you these lists, all of the stocks that I track and all of my drop downs. So I will do that in another video. I'll go through each and every one of them so you can see what I track, whether it's on the connectivity, the infrastructure, the memory, the power wall, the compute wall, all the stocks that I do. But today I want to focus on that question of, have we actually hit the bottom? Are we starting to have a bit of a reversal? And if you take a look at the candle pattern chart here, you can see where we actually hit right here on Wednesday, morning, right here, we hit the bottom of a 915. The low is 915.24. I will make the argument that if you look at this pattern, you will see a series of higher lows. So throughout the day on Wednesday, we got here to a low of 919. We moved up to 928. We actually saw today with a really nice gap up from the get-go. So this was the gap up. Let me pull it over. The gap up that we saw right out of the gate this morning, I think, was it here? Let me get back to it, guys. Sorry. Right here, we had a gap up, actually dropped down to the intraday low here of 929 a share. And then you see a nice kind of just all the announcements, what we're hearing, what Micron revealed as well. It really brought some conviction back into the stock. So we saw the institutional players, the retail players step back in at 929 and show support for this stock. But then look at this rally that we're seeing right here in the afternoon. That is a strong rally. That's the conviction or the reversal that we're seeing with Micron right now. This is what I love to see. And it's why I said I have to shoot this video earlier to show this in real time to each and every one of you on the channel. But what's driving it overall? I think a couple things. One is, this is the big announcement today from Micron. And we know Micron also committed over $250 billion for across the U.S. in another program. This is a separate investment, a separate commitment, a $10 billion research lab that is focused on memory and AI. If we go through some of the details, they announced today that they've established the Micron Research Labs. It will be based in Boise, Idaho, and it's going to be backed by this $10 billion investment over the next decade. The institution will focus on memory technologies, advanced memory and compute architectures, packaging, semiconductor manufacturing, and Micron describes the lab as the first dedicated research hub, memory research hub of its kind in the U.S. The lab is intended to connect Micron researchers with external partners across academia, government, and this is a strong partnership. And this is type of movement we're starting to see with these big three players. We see SK Hynix hiring talent here in Silicon Valley. They want to put their engineers, their talent right next to NVIDIA, AMD, and the other players in Silicon Valley so they can co-develop this architecture together. And this is what Micron is doing as well. They want to bring the talent into their research hub so they can start to develop new innovations, new products, new architectures that will make this company be sustainable and make them relevant in future iterations of memory cycles as we move into, agentic, and ultimately as we move into the robotics phase as well. So I love this piece because it just gives, in my opinion, kind of long-lasting relevance and sustainability to Micron as we move forward. The company said the investment is separate from its previous announced commitment of $250 billion in the U.S. manufacturing and research and development, which Micron said will create 90,000 jobs here in the U.S. So they're getting a ton of praise from executives from NVIDIA, Apple, Applied Materials, Lam Research. They all issued the statements for support for this announcement and cited their long-standing partnership and relationship with the company. So this is a great sign. This is part of the reason we're seeing that strong conviction here in the after hours. Look at that last candle here. So what are we trading at right now based on that? 975. Micron is up to 975. It's going to blow away. I'm going to show you later my price levels that I'm looking for confirmation and support. But this is a strong day, and it's looking like we're going to have a strong finish today with a few minutes left in trading. But part of this reason it started is because what we saw with SK Hynix yesterday, what we heard with Samsung overnight, those stocks rallied on those buyback programs. Look at SK Hynix. It was up almost 13% in their trading based on the fact that they came out and said they're going to buy back almost $30 billion of shares, cancel those shares in the market just to drive higher share prices as well. We heard the same thing from Samsung. And you can see on the right here, Samsung was up 9.5% in their trading. Now, this was announced this morning. It came across my headlines, my news tracker, and it says Samsung Electronics to announce more than $72 billion in shareholder return program. So like I said, they are not going to let SK Hynix outdo them. They're a bigger company. They have a bigger market cap, obviously, more significantly more diversified across their product lines. But Samsung is set to announce a new shareholder return policy later this month worth more than 71.75 billion US dollars. The South Korean memory chip maker will hold a board meeting at the end of August to approve a shareholder return plan that includes this special dividend. And ultimately, Samsung will spend 50% of its free cash flow on this new program for shareholders. And so you might ask, why? It's great that SK Hynix, it's great that Samsung is doing this, but why are we seeing this same type of investment from Micron? And I want to just remind you guys, I know many of you know it already on the line, but it's all related to the CHIPS Act. Calls it out here in Barron's article, but it says, why isn't Micron buying back stock like the rivals, their memory chip rivals, and ultimately why it could? So if we scroll down to the end, it says Micron investors might be questioning when the U.S. memory chip company will get in on the act, but there's an obstacle. There's something that is preventing them from doing it today. Micron is currently restricted from carrying out big share buybacks or special dividends due to the conditions in the CHIPS Act funding that it received from the U.S. government back in 2024. Micron has other uses for their cash right now because they're sitting on a stockpile of cash as well. But we went through one of them, the $10 billion investment over the next decade for their Micron research labs. And we also had the other $250 billion investment or commitment to the U.S. However, say that these restrictions on buybacks, they will expire, or they're intended to expire on December 9th of this year. And Micron has signaled that it intends to step up capital returns once that expiration happens on the 9th. So UBS's analyst, Timothy Acuria, he estimates that Micron will generate $380 billion in cumulative free cash flows in 2027 and 2028, and should be able to use the vast majority of that cash to buy back stock. That is going to move this stock. So if we think about the big catalyst that we have later this year, the September 29th earnings call will be a massive catalyst for this company. And they may announce a buyback program at that earnings call. But then very quickly after that, after December 9th, we could see a massive buyback, which is going to move this stock in a positive direction overall. So I do think we still have a very solid chance of hitting that 1,500, 1,550 price level by the end of this year based on some of these catalysts that are coming up. So it says here at the end that Micron shareholders face a frustrating wait for the big cash returns, but they should get their return eventually. The question that you have to ask ourselves is, why are these companies returning so much cash flow? What's the benefit of returning so much of this cash flow to their shareholders? I think the biggest piece here is it shows that they're not using that money to invest in more fabs. I think if they turned around and said, we're going to use that 30 billion, the 72 billion to build out more fabs and ultimately to build more supply in the market, it would have such a negative reaction on the stock price. But the fact that they're showing that type of supply discipline and they're returning this money to their shareholders, it is being perceived as a very strong sign for the cycle. It's being perceived as a strong sign of kind of leadership across these three companies and how they're stewarding the supply in the marketplace right now to ensure we don't oversupply the market that'll significantly impact the prices overall. But there are some things I want to look at, and I was mentioning earlier, things that I think will call out of how we can defend or just keep our eyes on to see if the thesis will actually continue to play out in the marketplace. There's three signals I want to go through with you. The first one is just forward demand visibility. The revenue visibility that we have in the cycle right now is outstanding. The long-term contracts give that kind of commitment. They give the pricing floors. They have some variable ceilings. But it just gives the stability for revenue and visibility over the long term. So we have to continue to see that, honestly. If we continue to see more customers sign up, then this is a very strong sign to support the bullish thesis overall. Memory suppliers, if they continue to benefit, they do continue to benefit from unusually strong forward visibility in AI memory, with customers securing high bandwidth memory and advanced DRAM supply far earlier than traditional commodity cycles. So it doesn't eliminate the cyclicality, though, but it does give the suppliers greater visibility into demand, pricing, and capacity planning overall. The second one is the capital discipline, and that's what we're seeing right now in real time with SK Hynix and Samsung. So they got to balance this capital investments and the shareholder returns. This is the difference from historical memory cycles, is that suppliers are balancing this capacity investments with aggressive shareholder returns. And it doesn't eliminate the oversupply risk, but it does give us evidence that the leadership teams, the management teams in these companies remain hyper-focused on capital discipline rather than blindly chasing big growth. And finally, the agentic workload scaling. We know the agentic, as AI transitions from inference to agentic, the execution, the memory capacity, the bandwidth, and the high-speed enterprise storage increasingly becomes more core constraint alongside the compute. So this is going to expand the memory opportunity beyond HBM into server DRAM and into high-performance enterprise NAND. So this is a great sign. If we continue to see agentic scale and become bigger and bigger, it's also very supportive of the bullish thesis that we have for the memory sector. So these are the three things that I'm looking at. I think they are what I'm calling the three structural pillars that will support the memory sector, will support the bullish thesis that I think we'll have moving forward in the next 12 to 18 months. And if we look at where they closed, Micron, just to go back, it closed at 974.29. So really strong day for the stock today. And the last piece I want to give you guys is the three price levels to watch, or at least what I'm watching, because I mentioned in the beginning, have we hit the bottom, or did we bottom out this week? Not at the 915, but today the intraday low is 929. So I want to keep my eye on that. It clearly looks like we're going to stay above it based on the movement we had at the end of the day. But this is our line in the sand right now. We'll call it 930 a share. If we can hold above this 930 a share, it just gives us a strong sign that we are kind of have bottomed out and we're moving for the next, or looking to move into the next leg up. 970, which we have beat right now, is the first kind of reclaim zone that I was mentioning when I put this graphic together before we saw that hyper action at the end of the day. But like I said, if we could reclaim 970, this is a decisive move for the stock. And should tell all of us that the reversal today is gaining clear follow through rather than simply bouncing from an oversold condition. And then finally, the major confirmation would be the $1,000 mark. This would be a decisive reclaim. If we could hold, break 1,000 again and hold above it, it would be the strongest technical evidence that this week's breakdown is just being repaired and buyers are successfully absorbing the overhead supply. So those are the three kind of price zones I'm looking at. And I will say there are a couple ways that this thesis could fail that we just have to, be honest and transparent about. One is, I think, if we dive back down below that 929 level, the intraday low level today, if we bottom down again and it breaks down below that, it increases the probability of another lower leg overall. And then I think the other one is just around technical weakness. If we tend to see falling DRAM spot pricing, weakening contract negotiations, or hyperscaler CapEx reductions, if they signal that they're not going to spend at the rate they are, I would become much more concerned that the equity market isn't merely repricing risk, that it is correctly anticipating a change in the memory cycle overall. But that's kind of what I'm looking at today. Like I said, it was a really strong day across the board. And I think the evidence that we have today, ultimately for me, I lean towards this being a positioning-driven correction rather than the beginning of a fundamental memory downturn. I do think we have found the bottom this week, and we are going to move up from here and get ready for a next leg overall. We finally have a credible evidence that the bottoming process may be underway based on all the signs and signals that we see today. Now, the market just has to prove it. Can it hold this price? Can we continue to move forward overall? Well, we can continue to see strong sentiment for these stocks tomorrow as we close out the week. For Micron, as I said, that 929 or 930 is the line in the sand. The 970 was the first area I wanted to see that we could reclaim to give a sign of bullish, kind of a bullish signal for the stock, and we reclaimed it today. The major confirmation is that $1,000 mark. Can we break through 1,000 again? That will be, at that point, I think you can honestly say the technical picture has materially changed for the stock. I think these buybacks, these commitments from SK Hynix, from Samsung, what Micron is doing with their cash, they're not putting it to building out more supply. They're putting it to research and development. They're putting it to returning capital to shareholders. That's a positive thing. And I think the market is rewarding these companies for that right now. But drop a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are today. how you interpreted those signs from SK Hynix, Samsung, and Micron ultimately. What is your line in the sand number that you're tracking? Mine is 930. Do you have a different number overall? Do you like the buyback programs, or do you think they should have used this capital in other ways, like building out more R&D or kind of investing in more innovation for future memory products overall? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop the comment below. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And guys, I'll see you in the next one after the close of business tomorrow. Take care.